It's time now for Speakeasy with Geri Ellzey.
Thank you for joining me today. Muriel Lewis is with us today, and she is one of my very favorite people. You have such a good time. You travel all over the world, and you're just such a nice person. And it's just a pleasure to have you today.
Thank you, Geri. It's always fun to be here. So I really have nothing planned. That's why I brought these artifacts from Papua New Guinea. Maybe I could describe them or how I bought them. And they're great value, which is nothing.
I don't know. To
me, nothing could replace them.
How do you decide what to buy in the places that you go to? You have to have some kind of rule that you follow.
Well, New Guinea was different. Of course, the museum in New York just opened with millions and millions of dollars worth of New Guinea artifacts. I'm not interested in that. First of all, I couldn't buy them. So it's just a matter of seeing something, and if it's available at a price, I'll buy it.
And you love to deal with them.
And you learn how to deal with natives, and in New Guinea there wasn't much dealing because they're such lovely, friendly, sweet people. Still along the river, they are very, the Sepik River, they're very primitive. And we'll start with this, which actually saved my life. It's the first thing I saw. Nobody is out. They don't have shops. It was lying on the ground, and I stopped to look at it. It's a cane.
Let's hold it still so they can get a shot of it.
It's a cane. This part is a complete carved alligator. This is a bird, and this is another kind of a bird, and it cost me maybe $3 in U.S. money.
Can we take a close-up of some of this?
Can you see it? In most everything, the eyes are made out of shells.
Here you see the alligator right there.
No, this is the alligator.
What is this? What is this?
This is the alligator. This one here is a bird. And they have their own sort of birds, or they make them up. There is nothing exact in their lives, but they believe very strongly that they all came from birds. And at one time,
They believe that the alligators came from
No, they believe that humans came from birds.
Oh, they do?
That all humans were at one time birds. And I believe on my last show I told you the wonderful story about the cormorant and the woman who changed into the bird. And I was able to buy a bird woman, and my son has that. That's why I don't have it here. This little thing around my neck, can you see it, is the only one I saw that was made to be a pendant. Nothing else anywhere.
Get a look at that. I see.
Was carved, so there was a hole where you could put a chain or a rope. I wove some wool. This does not resemble New Guineans. They don't look like this. They don't have sharp features, so somebody just made this up.
Just out of his own mind.
Just out of his own mind. This one here.
All right, I'll get it.
Is very interesting. Again, it is a human, but it has the bird beak. That represents the bird. And this is painted with, their dyes are made from berries and leaves, and it's all natural. Water will wash it off very quickly.
What did you say about the rain?
The rain will destroy the painting because there's no finish on it. They've just mixed their own paints from berries, leaves, and wood, different things, charcoal.
You know,
anything. We watched a painting, and as again, the cowrie shells are the eyes.
That is really
which they use a great deal, and they're very readily available.
We need to take a break. We'll be back with Muriel Lewis and some of the artifacts from New Guinea in just a moment. has very often taken us on our kind of trip on television to the countries where she's been. And this particular one is New Guinea. You pick up things all over the world, but
Small
you have to be prudent with that.
People ask me why I didn't get rubies in Burma. I don't need rubies. I don't care what they cost. I just don't need them. Or why I didn't get emeralds in India. I got little things that I love and can sit around and look at and talk about and not worry about sticking them in the bank. Let me have that little one at the end, Jerry.
Okay.
This one is very, very valuable. It cost me 5 cigarettes. Unfortunately, it was knocked over at home, and I've repaired it, and he no longer will stand. And once again, you've got a man, a bird, sort of a face, and he is kneeling on another face. No one knows exactly what it meant, or whether the carver just had a piece of wood left over, and so he made a face and let him kneel on it. And he wanted a pack of cigarettes, but I didn't have a whole pack. And I really think it was 4 cigarettes and the equivalent of 10 cents. And it's just charming.
That's a charming story.
And he was thrilled to get the cigarette.
Do you have to be afraid of the people at all? I remember one particular story. When y'all were out on all of that murky water with all that, wasn't there a dangerous story there?
Well, there was a story in New Guinea when we helped look for a dead body.
Yes, I remember that.
And we were not welcomed in because they were having a search. They had lights all along the little tributary. And bonfires, when I say lights, they wouldn't. And we crept in very slowly. There were just 3 of us in a little outboard, sort of a motor, sort of a whaler, Boston whaler thing. And, but when there were no bells to welcome us, or gongs, or greetings of any kind, and we crept around, and I wouldn't buy anything, I just wanted to leave. And when we left, our chef, who was piloting the boat, because that's all that was left that day, was asked something, and what he was asked was that we would leave as fast as possible to stir up the water. That was a reason, to stir up the water, and maybe that would bring the body up. And so they were asked our help. They weren't mean or cruel. It was very depressing.
So you never felt threatened?
Oh, we never felt threatened. In fact, we sat in... Now, let me show you this, which is a very interesting thing. It is called a penis gourd. It's made out of a natural gourd, woven at the top, and then clay baked on with the shells and an animal's tooth. The warriors, and there are still border wars, wear this. This is the only thing they wear to protect themselves. And each village is known for one thing that they make. And we knew that there is a Margaret Mead village. This is where Margaret Mead learned about primitive people. She lived there for years. There is another one that just makes these penis gourds. There is another one that just makes funeral masks out of straw, the big things that you can't carry around. They'll cut a whole body shroud out of straw. And we had been told and knew what each village had, so we knew what these were. And I managed to bring a few home.
And this is made out of clay, and it's been broken a couple of times.
It's a natural gourd, which is a vegetable. But the baked on, which is a snake, he goes all around, winds all around, set with shells, is baked on clay. Then an animal's tooth is at the bottom, and the top is woven out of fiber with a string that goes around the waist.
Okay. Very interesting.
Now, the other thing that means so much to me is this, which is Japanese, because we traveled on a houseboat with 20 Japanese art students. We didn't spend days with them because they just went to one place to learn how certain firing was done with clay. They knew it was my birthday. I had a birthday on the Secret River, which is the most fantastic thing. And the captain got up and spoke in English, then the interpreter interpreted, then the Japanese teacher, Mr. Takakura, who was one of Japan's most famous ceramists, and I still keep in touch with him, which is wonderful, got up and wished me a happy birthday in Japanese and presented me with this little doll. Now, this doll is what all Japanese children play with. I'm not sure, I think it's called a Coco doll, but I wouldn't swear to that. Mm-hmm. And on the box in Japanese was written Sepik River and the date and happy birthday, all in Japanese, and that cover of that box means as much to me as this doll. And of course everything was interpreted, everything we did took longer. And then I thanked them and I bowed and went through the usual thing, and we were very close friends by that time, and that was interpreted. And so this also comes from New Guinea via Japan.
Oh, that's interesting. Now, you mentioned the
Sepik River.
Sepik River a lot. Is that the main?
It's in the north. It flows, I think, east to west. It's a long river. It's not very wide. And there are little villages all along it. And
this is what you travel down?
We travel down the river on the houseboat, but we would leave the houseboat in these little boats because the houseboat crept and we could zoom. And two other people and myself went to almost every village while the Japanese just went to one.
Well, here we are in Selma, Alabama, a long ways from New Guinea, but we'll be back right after this. Muriel Lewis is our guest today, and we have a couple of artifacts left, particularly the dolphin. Tell me about the dolphin.
I'll tell you about the dolphin. This dolphin is, as you can see, entirely different. It's completely smooth, it's finished, and it comes from the Trobriand Islands, which are off of New Guinea, made by different people. And it is a more finished product than the ones made on the Sepik River.
Mm-hmm. Does that have anything to do with the primitiveness of the people?
I think there probably have been contact with foreigners more in the Trobriand Isles than they have along the Sepik River, where the only travelers they see are the ones on this houseboat. That just goes back and forth.
And is this the only houseboat that travels on this river?
There are two. One holds 8 people and one holds 20.
So they don't see a lot of people.
So they don't see a lot, and we were very fortunate. We went to 2 villages that had never seen a white person. And they were just charming and thrilled. And
what do they think about the white person?
Well, I'm sure they've heard about us, and the captain of our boat is an Australian who's lived there all his life, so they might have seen him somewhere. But they gathered around and...
Did they touch you?
Touched us and sort of took us in charge, just the 3 of us, and gave us some of their food, which... I
was going to ask you, you have to eat some of that food. I mean, that's a compliment.
Well, it was a compliment, but I may have told you this before. Everybody in this village does communal cooking. Like one was cooking a fish, one was cooking breadfruit, one over the open fires. When the man reached, he just slit the fish and put his hand in and took a piece out and ate it. And he put his hand in and offered it to me. Well, I know they have a very bad skin disease. And I smiled and said, no, thank you, and he knew. And he gave me a great big grin and held out a fish so I could help myself. And I took a piece of the fish, and it was marvelous. And he was not insulted because they do know that they do have this skin disease, which is lack of the proper nutrients.
Mm-hmm. Because of their diet.
Their diet. And, but I ate that, baked breadfruit, baked bananas, everything is roasted in the open fires, and it was delicious.
I bet you have eaten some strange things in your travels.
Very strange, but strangely enough, the best thing I've come across is eel. Conger eel in South America. And it was so good, after I had the courage to eat it the first time, I always asked for it if it was available. And unfortunately, I've also eaten horse. That's pretty bad. And raw chicken, unedible. But other things have been very good.
Well, you're brave.
You try everything once. This is a little alligator, a baby alligator's skull. I don't know whether you can see his teeth. He's covered with baked clay again, and again with the cowrie shells as decoration. Underneath, you can see part of the bone. It was just, I think it cost me something like 50 cents in U.S. money, and it was just something that I thought was cute, and I brought home.
Those shells cover the eyes?
They're different shells. The eyes are cowrie shells, and the others are just little river shells, just plain, ordinary shells. And all the eyes and everything, if you'll notice, except the cane, are these cowrie shells, which are common, I think, throughout the world.
How did you plan your trip to New Guinea? Did you get a travel agency, or did you do that yourself? Or what?
No, did it through Eagle World Travel, but June and Seymour Cone was smart enough to know that they didn't know about New Guinea or New Zealand or Australia, and so they got in touch with the Australian Travel Bureau, who took us, worked out our plans for Australia according to my instructions, more or less, and then New Zealand. Well, we went to New Guinea from Australia and back to Australia.
Thank you, Muriel, very much. I really enjoyed this today. Have a real nice day. That was great.
Speakeasy is a studio presentation of WSLA-TV Channel 8. Join us again on Monday at 11 a.m. for Speakeasy with Geri Ellzey.